You find yourself in the middle of a crisis and not sure how to handle it with the media. Here are my top tips based on when I used to work in a government department. Number one, now is not the time to be defensive. You do need to fact find very quickly, but leave defensiveness at the door because the public via the media can smell it a mile off. Number two, if a mistake has been made, you're going to need to be prepared to admit a mistake has been made, subject to some of the points that I say in this video. For example, the most important one being legal advice. Number three, if you do need to make an apology or say anything in relation to an apology, you do need to really think about how you say it. It needs to be delivered with sincerity. Number four, look at how other people handle crises. Look at what you think has been handled well. Look at interviews that you think haven't gone well. So try and get an idea and benchmark what your plans are against those that you've thought have been good and those that you think have not done a very good job. Number five is more to do with taking legal advice. Particularly if there's been a death or something very serious, you will need to take proper legal advice. But beware, because most lawyers will tell you to say nothing. So what you need to do is try and find a lawyer that will work with you to make sure that you can say something, but without admitting any fault if the fault isn't yours, or you just need to be careful with it. But if you leave a complete vacuum when something has happened, other people, the public, via the media, will make up in their own mind what has happened, and that's what you want to avoid. Number six, this is more to do with before a crisis happens. This is the sort of thing to think about now. You do need a proper crisis management plan in place. At the very least, you need to have identified what senior members of staff will be available at short notice, 24 hours a day, if a crisis should happen. And that obviously depends on the size of your organisation and how complex the nature of your business is. Any response through the media to something that's happened, a crisis, for want of a better phrase, is all going to be dependent on the nature of what's happened. So that fact finding initially is really important. And obviously how you're going to handle a crisis, say for example if somebody's lost their life at one extreme end, through to if a group of people have had a really terrible meal at a restaurant. I mean, that might not be classed as a crisis, but there's such a broad church in terms of what can have happened. So trying to establish the facts and to develop a response that's appropriate to what's happened is really crucial. I'm not just saying this because I work in PR, but if you are a larger organisation, I do think it pays to actually speak to a PR professional that has got experience dealing with lots of different crises. It pays to work with somebody that has seen through lots of different scenarios and understands how to play the tape forward and to predict what potentially might happen. Once a PR crisis has happened, it's then really important to think about how you're going to rebuild your brand after a crisis. And this isn't something to shy away from. It is really difficult when a crisis happens. Your reputation inevitably does take a bit of a hiding. But if you've got a really good proactive PR strategy in place, it should be easier for you to weather the storm of a difficult situation and to maintain some reputation during that difficult period. And then when it is gone past, thinking about how you're going to rebuild your reputation. So thinking about the good news stories that you can get out there, what are the key stakeholders involved that may have been affected by the crisis and how you can actually try and get them back on board. And finally, try not to panic in the midst of a crisis. It's really, really difficult not to, but just try not to. Try and keep a level head. And again, working with a PR professional that's experienced in keeping a level head, even at 2, 3 in the morning. Sometimes I've been up trying to need to manage situations. So yeah, keeping a level head's really important.